Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. In today's breakdown video, we have a good one. I forgot I had these, to be honest. I was digging through my ammo shelf and I found them, and I thought immediately I'm doing a breakdown video right now. So, right off the bat, the price tag up here, $15.95, that is not what I paid for these. In 2020, me and Josh's brother were up here at a pawn shop about half a mile up the road. They were going out of business. It was actually their last day of being open. We didn't know that. We walked in looking for some 16 gauge. Well, they didn't have any. They had 28 gauge on the shelf. At the time, I didn't have a 28 gauge, but I was looking for one. I saw these. And he had one box of these, two boxes of Remington Express long range, and like 4 or 5 boxes of really bad Spartan target loads. He gave them all to us for $5 each, including these. So for $60, I walked out with quite a lot of 28 gauge, and some of it expensive shells. Anyway, these are from the early 2000s or late 90s one. I can't remember. I did look that up, but if you know, leave it in the comments. Obviously, this is 28 gauge, 2 3/4 inch max dram equivalent, which I looked that up. It's 1200 FPS. The modern version is 1210, or no, sorry, it's 1205 FPS. 1 ounce of 7.5 shot. So that is 1 ounces, 1205 FPS. That's equivalent to a standard 16 gauge load, or a little bit lighter for a 12 gauge, or a Magnum 2 3/4 inch 20. Anyway, going over the box, the front of it, well, it's faded, but Winchester Super X. And it has a warning, that is all it is. The top of the box is the specs. This is Super X high brass loads. High brass doesn't really mean anything. This could be in a low brass and it'd work the same. The legendary Winchester Super X ammunition is made with the same skill, care, and quality as when first introduced in 1922. I believe that was actually by Western, not Winchester. Today, Super X ammunition is made using the precise manufacturing processes and the highest quality components to give you the consistent, dependable performance generations of shooters continue to rely on. Sorry about reading that weird. I was trying not to cough. Anyway, the back of the box, these are always cool. You don't see that so much with modern boxes, but some of them do still have it. This is a shot shell guide chart, showing you what gauge, what shot size, and choke is recommended for whatever game you're trying to hunt. Like, for instance, geese up here at the top, this is with steel shot. It's recommending a 10 or a 12 gauge using a mod or improved modified choke with varying shot sizes. For ducks, it's recommending a 10, 12, or 20. For some reason, no 16 gauge. 16 gauge steel shot does exist too, and people use it all the time for ducks. For pheasants, they recommend a 12, 16, 20, or 28 with 4, 5, 6, or 7.5 shot. That 7.5 shot, I'd imagine you need to be a little bit closer because that's some pretty small shot. Anyways, it's recommending anything from improved cylinder to improved modified, no full choke. That's a bit odd. For partridge or grouse, it's recommending 12, 16, 20, or a 28. You guys get the idea. Shot shell charts are pretty cool, but also at the same time, they're a little bit goofy with what they tell you to use. I don't know. The other side of the box is Super X, again, with 25 shotgun shells. And of course, the barcode. The bottom of the box is, really nothing. So I like these older style boxes right here. It's just silver. This used to be a nice vibrant red color, but again, it's faded. These sat in the front of the shop with a big open glass window, and the sun just faded them over the years. The guy told me, I believe his name is Rick, he told me that the 28 gauge ammo they had just never sold. And I believe him. It was one of the last things they had on the shelf in terms of shotgun ammo. They also had some 303 British and a few different boxes of 22. That was all the ammo they had left. Sad they're out of business. That is where I've got my guitar strings my entire life. And some ammo, but they're gone, sadly. Also bought numerous guitars there and a few guns. But anyway, moving on, the shell looks like this. Of course, it's red being Winchester. I've never seen Winchester 28 gauge come in anything but red. It has a 16mm brass head on it. This is legit brass, not brass-plated steel. A Winchester 209 primer. The head stamp says Winchester 28 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, which is 70mm, 7.5 shot right there, and 28 gauge only. Now, if you haven't noticed yet, this is an original AA hull, or compression formed one-piece tapered hull. Yep, this is the good stuff right here. The modern version of this is the AA HS hull. They do still make this right here, this exact box, but it's still under the Super X brand. It's not under the AA, neither of these, of course. But that's what it is. It is a AA hull, compression formed. My favorite hulls ever. The crimp looks pretty nice. It isn't very deep set, but it is uniform. It's a little bit castly on top. You can see over crimp lines. That's okay. There's no hole in the middle. It looks like there is, but there's not. It's completely sealed in person. But it has a pretty good taper on it. Overall, I'd say this is a really good put together shell here. But without further ado, let's take this apart and see how it's put together. I have heard that these are done with fiber wads, no plastic wad in here at all. And if that's true, it's similar to the older style turkey and goose loads we've done before in 12 and 16 gauge. So I'm pretty interested here. Let's find out. Okay, so for a charge in this, we have 17.2 of a ball powder, which is very typical of Winchester. Now, this being 17.2 grains, focus, that would put this at a slightly faster powder than Little Gun, but also not as fast as Long Shot. And for a gas seal, we have an over powder cup. It is a fiber wad. Now, this is measuring 53 caliber, .530, which is the same size as a 32 gauge plastic gas seal. And why is that? Because the hull is tapered. 28 gauge tapered hulls at the bottom step down to 32 gauge. So if you wanted to, you could take this and put it in a 32 gauge hull and use that as a gas seal. I wouldn't recommend that though, because fiber wads do not provide as good of a gas seal as a plastic wad. But there it is. And above that, we have roughly a 1/4 inch fiber wad. I say roughly because you can see it's not, one side is higher than the other, but it's supposed to be 1/4 inch. I'm going to end this clip here and I'll wait for whatever truck that is to stop beeping. Okay, and above that, we have some sort of plastic wrap. I was hoping these would have a plastic wad, but they don't. I should have known that too. This is a tapered hull, and it's hard to get a full-length wad in a tapered hull, but this just has a plastic wrap. Now, that's got me thinking here. A lot of the old-timers that really like 28 gauge, people in the 28 gauge group on Facebook, they absolutely hate 1 ounce loads or anything above 3/4 ounce. They say it patterns horribly. And my theory behind that is the older shells that are a bit heavier payload for 28 gauge, the 7/8 ounce or 1 ounce, they probably were done just like this. They didn't have a wad, whereas the 3/4 ounce loads did. They have a WAA 28 wad, which is the pink one for tapered hulls. Claybuster still makes those, actually. And, well, of course, anything with a wad generally patterns quite a bit better than loads without a wad. And they swear up and down, a lot of people still do, that 1 ounce 28 gauge loads are garbage. You can't get them to pattern good no matter what. My advice to you is, if you're experiencing that or have experienced, try out a modern shell. Any brand, Winchester, Remington, Federal, even Fiocchi, the 1 ounce loads, they all have at least a 3/4 length wad. I know for sure Federal and Winchester, have full length wads. All of the shot is in the shot cup, and those actually, in our experience, pattern really good. And for a payload, we have right at 1 ounce. It's actually maybe a pellet over 1 ounce, which is nothing to really write home about, but still, a full 1 ounce payload in here of 7.5 shot, and it looks like this. Those are still very, very shiny. They all appear to be the same size, and to me it looks like it is hard lead, high antimony. Let's take a better look at it. And there you go. Yep, it is all the same size. It's very shiny, well polished, and very, very round. I'll let you guys know if this is hard lead or soft lead. I'll squeeze one off camera. If Josh or my wife was here, I would film that for you guys, but I don't have 3 hands, so I'll have to do that off camera. And of course it was high antimony lead, but all in all, this is extremely simple. Hull powder, over powder cup, 1/4 inch fiber wad, plastic wrap, shot, crimp. There's no buffer in this, nothing special, nothing fancy at all, just a classic, old style, simple shell here. But anyway, let's put this back together and see if I can make it look presentable. And for those of you that care, today's snooze and drink combo is the Moose Major Wintergreen, which tastes like candy, it's so sweet. And Powerade Zero Sugar Strawberry Smash. Maybe don't, do anything wintergreen with strawberry. Maybe just stick to water because the combo is awful. And here it is, put back together. The taper is still well pronounced. I think the crimp is actually a little bit better. It's a little deeper set. All I used was a BN2. I call that a success. There has been a breakdown on a vintage, if you want to call it vintage, box of Winchester high brass loads, 28 gauge, 1 ounce, 7.5 shot. Supposed to be 1205 FPS. But there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.